wait until no, 0.6, hooray! Start the video for it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, we made it eventually.
Is it officially so we can shout it from the rooftops?
Yeah, it's gone. Everything is out.
Great.
All of the builds are up. Everything should be working.
Thank you very much, Stuart.
It's hardly entertaining. It all went concerningly smoothly this time.
I saw that visualization you put on Google Plus. It's really cool.
Yeah, I made one of those a while ago for the whole history, but I just made it for 0.6 this time.
Yeah, I like it.
I liked it, it was cool.
84 downloads in the last day.
From SunPy.
Yeah.
Yeah, those download statistics may as well just be made up.
Somebody's counting them some way, so that counts for something.
The best way to, well, I see what I find interesting is the complete lack of downloads through Conda. We've had 2 downloads through Conda so far. One was me, and one was Alex.
And yet that's how we're telling everybody to update.
Yeah.
Mm.
Who's this everybody of which you speak?
Well, the installation instructions on SunPy.org now point to that. So.
Of 0.5.4, we had 20 Win64 downloads, 3 Win32 downloads, 33 OS X downloads, and 30 Linux downloads.
Yeah, but this is like a few days later. Let's wait it out a little bit.
Yeah, they are at least more reliable download statistics.
Yeah. Can you get last time you had gotten, who was it? Somebody else on Twitter to repost. Was it SunPy?
Oh, SunPy tip.
SunPy, yeah.
That's a good point. I'll give that a go.
And then we should also put something in Solar News.
Yep.
You were working on that, Jack, right?
I was warned off it by Stuart, so I've done precisely
I was
nothing.
warned off. I was warning you off it for like 3 hours while I actually finished doing a release, because you like saw my 0.6 tag and just was like, ah! And I was like, no, I haven't built anything yet.
I was up in PyPy, so...
Yeah. So basically the order at the moment is they put it up on SunPy, and then you can run the Conda builds through the build repo, and then make sure that the documentation gets set up properly, and then it's done. So
I will craft a message.
sweet. We've got plenty of time to get it out for the next edition anyway.
Yeah.
Did anyone see my email to SunPy Dev earlier?
Which one?
I think I've only sent one today.
Bug fix release.
Yeah, that one.
I saw it.
It's nice to know that these get read.
Yeah, I saw it as well.
I just think that we haven't done a 0.5 release in a while, and I should imagine with the amount of API breakage we've put in 6, some people might be a bit slow to update to it. Might be worthwhile keeping our eye on 0.5 for a while.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, are you essentially saying that? You are not the lead developer right now, but you are essentially acting as such.
Well, I have done every single SunPy release.
Yeah.
Apart from 0.1. I packaged all of the others,
Mm-hmm.
which does
Which
mean
we are very
that there is a bus factor of 1 on doing releases at the moment.
That's right. Yeah, it would be really great to have somebody else do it.
I would also point out the person who probably packaged 0.1 was Keith. So,
Well, let's see if we get any responses. I mean, this is kind of a light event. Anybody here want to do it?
I'll do it.
David could be persuaded, but he's on holiday at the moment. So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean,
was that an offer, Jack?
Yeah.
Cool. So I have this checklist that I follow when I do it.
What have I just volunteered for? Because I didn't actually. I'm not sure I'm subscribed to. The last SunPy dev email I got from you was on color maps.
It's on color maps.
Yeah.
I didn't post that to Dev, did I?
with an iris color map?
No, matplotlib style defaults. Maybe I'm not on SunPy dev.
Well, go subscribe then.
So, the call for new style defaults.
Yeah.
That was on Dev. I sent that to both SunPy and
Both.
SunPy Dev. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see who is on SunPy Dev. Members.
63 members on SunPy.
Oh, that's a lot of people.
No, I am a member. Why don't I get those?
How many people on SunPy proper? 161. Sweet Jesus.
And yet, no one emails in that list at all. So, do we actually talk about serious things now?
Oh, serious things. Okay, so I'd like to bring up something that we were discussing at the end of the last meeting, but didn't really come to a conclusion on, I don't think, which is the things that we are milestoning is 0.7.
Yeah.
And the more than this, what we are using our milestones for on GitHub at the moment. 0.7 being the case in point, but not actually the core topic of this discussion. I think that we should stick to using the milestones for things that are actually blocking that release, because it would make life much easier to see how far through we are to a release and the things that we're working on, rather than just having it as like a wish list of things we'd like to get done in the near future.
Sure.
Because we're kind of using them as, oh, it'd be nice if this was in 0.7. And the answer to that is, well, yeah, if you code it up and merge it before 0.7 gets released, it will be in 0.7. You don't need to milestone that as 0.7, in my opinion.
But would you still tag it as 0.7? Or not?
Why? I mean, at the moment, so I'm using the version tags at the moment, I'm using as a marker for things that potentially need backporting. So issues or pull requests that affect that release, or affect that branch, right? So we effectively have a separate, completely diverged SunPy branches for all of the release versions. So like the 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and 0.5 all have branches, and they are all separate trees. Like you can't merge master into any of them.
Yeah. So, but then, how would you tag something as you you want it in 0.7 if you can, but you don't want to block on it?
I'm not sure that we need that differentiator on an axis like. Or well, the other. So I don't think we need something that it'd be nice to have this in 0.7 because it'd be nice to have any open issue in 0.7. Like there's no open issue if we go, oh no, we don't want that in 0.7 at all. I mean, why would we merge that? That would be stupid.
But I mean, it's a matter of like priority, right?
Yeah,
Prioritizing.
so I think we could follow the AstroPy priority. So AstroPy have 3 priority labels. They have priority low, priority medium, and priority high. They also have effort low, effort medium, effort high.
Okay, what about this other thing that affects release? What does that mean?
So there's effects release, which is a bug that that exists in a released version of SunPy, as opposed to a bug that only exists on master.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see.
So a bug which is tagged as effects release should also have a label corresponding to a version number or multiple version numbers, which it affects.
Yeah.
In theory. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
You said effects release affects
It's an existing release.
is an issue which affects the release of the next version or a previous version?
A currently released version, a version in the wild.
So affects a release as opposed as the noun instead of the verb.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe you should just call it like affects previous release or affects release. Release.
I think we could use a wiki page on what the labels mean. That might be something worth putting some time into, rather than making all the labels whole sentences, which would just be irritating.
SunPy Novice, I don't like that label.
So AstroPy again have like a package novice, package intermediate, and package expert labels. So they have. I think Tom put out an email or a blog about this a few months ago now. They have a set of labels which, like, they have, as I said, they have effort high, effort low, effort medium, package novice, package intermediate, package expert, and priority high, medium, and low, I think. Which does give you a fair amount of flexibility to describe what needs to be done, or like the type of person that should work on something.
Like, why do we have any, like, all these SunPy Novice issues should be... Well, I'm not sure that remove the ND data compatibility layer. Is that really a novice?
It's not complicated. It's just a lot of modifying code. It's conceptually easy. You just need to remove everything that assigns anything to data and meta inside entity data, inside map.
Yeah. Conceptually easy is not practically easy.
It is conceptually and practically easy. It's just a lot of it. Like, you just need to go through every method in map and make a set of relatively straightforward changes. Like, because at the moment what we're doing in lots of places in the map methods is copying the input instance and then modifying the meta attribute and the data attribute.
Mm-hmm.
But what we need to be doing is copying the input instance, modifying meta and data into a separate variable, and then creating a new map instance on the way out, rather than modifying data and map. That's all that needs to be done for all the methods in map. It's not actually that complicated. I mean, it might break a couple of things in other places in the code base. You need to run the tests and just go through and check stuff.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, why don't you? Do we have a place where we define all these things?
I don't think so at the moment. Right, okay, so that then, having had some level of agreement on that, we can probably go through and make those changes. I'll add that to my list, or someone else can do it. Let me see if I can find the AstroPy dev list. But what of the things that are currently milestoned as 0.7 are we actually going to block 0.7 on? I can see at least one that I would get rid of, two that I would get rid of.
Well, I think light curve has got to be in there, right? So, all the light curve ones are blocking, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna say, and I think this is how we should do this, because we feel like we haven't been very focused in our releases. I mean, we just kind of keep adding them, and then they become this big monster thing. We should just focus in on light curve improvements and Python 2, Python 3, right? Is that basically what people want?
Yeah, I'm.
So anything that doesn't, it's not related to those things should really, not be on here.
Yes, and the definition of the word related in that sentence needs to be strict, right? So that's something that is definitely related and not like this may come up in the course of doing that, or we may implement this in the course of doing that. Like, say, for instance, a metadata object for light curve. Yes, we may find that we need that to do the map factory, but there again we might not. So it shouldn't be blocking 0.7 in and of itself. If it gets pulled in, then fine.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. So, like, range object goes away, 1415 goes away, 1492 goes away.
1415? What? Oh, 1514.
Sorry, 1515.
1514. See, now this is the other thing, right? Bugs, in theory, block. Although I would argue that 1514... No, 1514 in itself is a bug. We shouldn't be returning an integer as a table. And bugs can block releases, that's fine.
But why is this... I mean, we have tons of bugs in our issue.
So some of the other bugs should probably be blocking it as well. Like, well, yeah, quite a few, I would argue.
Yeah.
But we can add more things to this in a minute. So range object can go...
Well, maybe we should split it then. Maybe we should make a feature milestone, 0.7 milestone, and like a bug milestone.
No, because we don't. That's it's obvious. Like if we use the labeling if we use labeling and milestones together, then we already have that because you can GitHub filter for milestone feature request or milestone bug. We don't need a separate thing for it. You can already do that.
Yeah, but this means that, I mean, one, I don't like having bugs in there because, like, one day before release, somebody could find a bug, and then you're like, blocks on that bug, right?
Well, if that bug is like a high priority bug, then yes, I would agree.
Well, okay.
In fact, actually, I would argue that 1514 is a bug that should probably be released in 0.6, but there we are.
Now you just added a qualifier, which is only high priority bugs should.
Well, yes, but that is kind of what is currently happening with 0.7, right? Because there's a lot of bugs that are open that aren't blocking 0.7 because they're not. They're deemed to be low priority.
Yeah, so we definitely need a high priority.
Low priority thing. So I put a link to the SunPy wiki in the chat, which explains their labeling convention. I am effectively proposing that we adopt this, along with priority high, medium, and low.
I think that's a good idea. The priority stuff, especially. I use that in. We use that for HelioViewer development, and it does get things done.
Why do we have so many wiki pages? Oh my god.
I will create some priority labels. Priority high. Priority medium. Priority low. Of course, a priority low bug is only slightly above a priority won't fix bug. So then we have effort low. Effort medium. Effort high. Actually, I shouldn't have created package noise. That was a mistake. Package. Oh no, can't spell. Then I edit this one. There we are. I have created all these labels and color coded them in groups.
I started editing the SunPy release wiki page.
We have a release wiki page.
All it does is point. Currently, it only points to your checklist.
Oh right, okay. Because I was going to say that checklist is my entire documentation for when I do a release.
Well, so I expanded it and started writing down some of the things that we're agreeing to here. So, and that we've probably never written down. Like point releases, the only things that could change the SunPy API. And I just wrote down a milestone thing.
Okay, so that's more about release preparation than packaging, but that's fine.
Well, I changed the name of the page to just SunPy releases.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
So we should try to keep that. Yeah,
Let's actually do some labeling. Right, so things that are currently milestone 0.7. Add method that derotates images. Go. Gone.
Gone.
Agree on solar ephemerise calculations. Gone.
Gone.
Light curve refactor stays. Integrate units into AstroPy spectra.
Gone.
Merging light curve objects.
Stays.
That's probably gone, although it'll almost certainly happen, but by my own rules that should go.
Oh.
Unify.
Just stay around if it becomes part of the other thing.
Yeah, exactly. I just mean it shouldn't be milestoned. because it itself is not what it is very much attached to like code refactor anyway. Unified downloader obviously stays. Migrate SunPy to support 3 and 2 at the same time. I think we should make that 0.7 because I'm already feeling like I'm in some kind of shame corner by not supporting it, having pushed out 0.6 and got at least 3 people round on me that we don't support Python 3 within the space of 2 days. And create a range object. That's going as well, right?
Yep.
Milestone, no milestone.
Yeah, so basically everything that should be on here is either high release, high priority bug, or a feature request. Right?
Where are you guys looking?
The milestone 0.7, all open issues. Or more just everything that's open, and milestone does 0.7. That includes PRs as well.
I see 8 open. Is that correct? 4 open.
It should now be 6. If you're seeing 4, you're filtering out PRs. You've got issue in the filter box.
Yep.
Right, so does that make sense? So everything on here should be a feature request, because this point release is adding features, and it should be a high priority bug. Not labeled as such, then it shouldn't be here.
Ah, what the?
What?
Sorry, I was just. Can I not add apply labels?
But what about this test coverage? 80% test coverage. Gone, I would say.
We really should do more work on our test coverage.
It's a should. It's not a block.
I would say that we didn't do anything. We should make that. Like I can't even remember where we are at the moment because coveralls has been down for so long. I would say, I would remove that one, but replace it with another one, which is to have a reasonably comprehensive set of figure tests by the next release. Now we have a figure testing infrastructure. We should probably use it because some of the most prolific bugs in SunPy recently have been figures breaking, not plotting properly, and that's because we don't test them, so we don't notice when they break.
Well, we are testing them in the documentation now more and more.
That's true, but we should have code tests for those as well, really. Yeah. Bearing in mind they're not really that difficult to write.
Yeah.
So if you click on the Achieve 80% test coverage link, you get 74% mentioned by Stephen on January 5th. So I guess we're probably still around about that number, right?
Let's find out. We can find out.
We may have already satisfied this.
It's possible.
Yeah. Well.
Oh, I've run that offline. This is going to give you a focus number. Let's check. Anyway, I will run that.
Okay. I'm not convinced that this should be here, but...
Okay, well, we'll drop it for the moment, but I would argue that we should have some kind of test increase in 0.7. I created a set of those issues that incremented it by, like, a section in each release, with the idea to sort of force us to move forward and write tests for code that is in there with no tests.
So, I would say that should be in there. I think we should have a test coverage target, otherwise we're just never going to do it. And it should be a blocking issue.
I just wonder whether it's worthwhile putting it in this release. So why does it have to happen now, I would say, right?
Because why put off to tomorrow? Is the answer on that one, I think.
Because from the user's perspective, they don't care. And so
No, but the release isn't just about the users. Releases are made by developers at the end of the day. So you can have other arbitrary milestones other than just features.
Right, but think of it from the user's perspective. I mean, if you can go around and say, this release is going to be the light curve release, and we're going to have a big, increase in functionality of light curve, right? And then, and that's all that's in there, and we don't take a really long time because we get stuck on other stuff like whatchamacallit. Then it'll come out on time, and people will be happy with it. And then the next release, we could say, oh, this next release is actually, we're doing a lot of back-end stuff, and so we manage expectations from our users that, well, this release is actually, a test release. It's not going to affect, your it's not going to give you a lot of features. So, I kind of like, we should run things like that a little bit more, I think. Because there are all these things that we can always say that, right? Like why not, squash this one bug, right? Like, oh, there's a bug here. What about all the other bugs? Why these bugs? We could say, well, 0.8 or 0.9, whatever. That's going to be like a big bug squashing release and testing release and stuff, and we sell it to users that way. But if you mix it all in, then it's not. People will get confused and they won't care. And that's my particular perspective on this.
Well, you don't have to. So the test coverage is for us.
Yeah, but it will. Developers. I mean, it will slow us down, right? Because it will take time. There's a limited amount of man hours that we can apply to this. So that means it's gonna delay this release. And so the question is it worth delaying this release for that? I would argue probably not, but people might have other opinions on it. Yeah, I think it would be nicer if we just had a theme for the release, and that theme would just be light curve and Python 3. That's how you tell people what we're doing, right? The next theme release could be test coverage. That's what we're doing in this release. It's just test coverage.
That's a pretty boring release.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think you need to sort of. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I wouldn't have a whole release of the theme of which was test coverage, because that would be boring. And have a release that has less features, slightly less features, but is also test coverage. But
actually, you could do a point release, because increasing test coverage would not affect the API. So that's a really good point. We do not need to include it in a release. It should not be blocking. It could be a point release.
I don't know. I think this is going to bite us.
I'm not saying we don't.
How about we? Okay, so the reason that
in this release,
so the thing is, if we have, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you for a start. I'm just saying we should include test coverage issues in milestones, because it gives us a deadline, arbitrary deadline given, but it says that it forces us, if we obey our own rules, it forces us to increase the test coverage. So I think in the general, we should have test coverage milestones in releases, because it will kick us into writing more tests, which is a good thing for the overall health of the repo.
Why don't we just create a point release milestone?
And because point releases are supposed to be bug fixes. They're not. I mean, you could. You're not wrong. You could increase test coverage in a point release, but we don't really need milestones for point releases, because there's never anything blocking a point release, because a point release just fixes a bug. So you could release a point release for every bug we fix in the 0.6 branch from now onwards.
Yeah, but that means you can be a little bit more goal-oriented in your point release and say, well, it's not only going to be bug releases, it's also...
But then we're holding up bug fixes, which could potentially be critical bug fixes that we should just push out as soon as we fix them, because they're stopping users doing something that they should be able to do. So we should. My point is, if we need to do a point release, we should never be holding it back, because it's a point release. It's designed to fix an existing usability issue or some other horrible behavior that should be burned. So the idea of blocking a point release is flawed, because...
Well, I never said it needs to block a point release.
But that was the whole point of milestoning them, is that they're blocking you doing something you want to do, so you have to fix the problem.
Well, okay, I think we've probably talked about this enough. I don't think I've convinced enough people, so that's fine. We can move on.
I would, as I say, I think it would actually be very easy to achieve that goal. I think writing plot tests for map and light curve and map cube would probably fix that. Like because there is the plotting code by line length is long, and it's not tested at all at the moment. So I think that actually just writing a few plot tests would probably achieve 80% coverage.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't think, like, back to your first point, which I don't think it would, in theory, slow us down that much.
Well, it won't slow us down that much.
Okay, so I've just run the test suite locally on my machine, and we're at 85%. So
Hey.
I'm ready.
Get rid of it then. Close it.
So that was a productive use of the last 10 minutes, everybody.
Well, we had to do something while we waited for it to actually compile it.
Well, so now we can put 90% for the topic, right?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I think 0.8's got 90 in it.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, we know
Should do.
there are 33 open issues on light curves, so we're probably going to be quite busy with that.
Yeah.
Is open label light curve? 3. Where did you get 30 from? What are you looking at? I'm confused.
Just type light curve into...
Oh, right. Well, we should clearly be labeling things better. Is open light curve. Oh, God. Why are these not labeled? These all should be labeled.
Yeah.
It's already labeled.
Where's that link to the point release framework that you're using?
Huh?
Where-
For what? I'm confused.
I don't really-
Oh,
You,
I think we can. Steve, do you want to close 721? I would do it at the moment, but I'm in the middle of doing something, so
721.
you can close 721. You fixed it.
Yeah, yes, I did.
So if we fix light curve, we're going to fix all these 33 issues. Nice.
Having just had to look down them, I don't think we are going to fix all of those 33 issues. So there are now 26 open issues labelled as light curve, because I just went down that list of searches and picked the relevant ones. So, yeah, we will get some of them, quite a lot of them, I would imagine.
Can we can I talk about the gallery?
Yes. go for it. I also have something to add on this subject, but I need to find it first.
Okay. So if people go to the gallery, you should know where it is, right, on the website. So Andy and I went through this, and we found some problems. And I thought we should discuss how we really want to handle this. So, as it currently is set up, the gallery is its own repo, and therefore it hosts its own website. So when you're clicking on the gallery, you're actually opening a new website. It looks exactly like the website that we did.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
The terrible way that we do that right now, but in any case, so the way it works currently is that inside the gallery, people are supposed to provide notebooks with all the content removed, so all the cell outputs removed, and then so that's so that you're not committing like figures, right, and images, which can be included inside your notebook if you ran something. So that's essentially binary data. So we don't want that in there. And then there is a script. So this is all Stuart stuff. There's a script called deploy, and it actually runs this thing called run IPy.
Steve.
Yes.
Actually, no. Go on. Keep going.
You run this script deploy, which includes this thing called run IPy, and run IPy will actually it'll essentially compile your notebook and add all the output, and then create an HTML file as and NumPy IPython notebooks can do, and then that gets pushed up into the web page part of the of this repo. Now, so the idea for that was that you're forcing them to be actually run each of the IPython notebooks. Great, and then you're also not including any binary data in your notebooks, which is also nice. There is one problem, at least, is that run IPy seems to be broken, and probably, I don't know, maybe they've stopped development on it because it's been a long time since they've updated anything, and it does not seem to work on the new Jupyter things, Jupyter notebooks. The other thing is that we've actually failed in addressing the main issue, which is not committing binary files to the repo. They're not being committed to the master repo, but they are being committed in the HTML outputs to the web part of the repo.
Yeah, but that's a problem that you... Well, all right, fine, but that's a problem with using GitHub Pages as a hosting mechanism, is that you have to commit binaries to the GitHub Pages branch. But the way the SunPy gallery scripts work is it doesn't store history for GitHub Pages, so every time you push to GitHub Pages, it completely destroys the history of the branch and starts again. So it doesn't balloon the size of the repo because there's no history in the GitHub Pages branch.
Ah, I see. I didn't know that. Okay. Well, so run IPy is broken. So what we did was we essentially just went in and started editing the pages themselves, which means that nothing is in sync anymore. So if you ran deploy, it would destroy the SunPy gallery page currently, if you got it running, which I don't think you will be able to right now.
Okay. All right. So before we spend too long on this,
yeah,
it's clearly broken. I therefore propose an alternative solution. Link in chat. Except not, apparently.
That's vision.
Has anyone got that link? I've sent it twice now. Oh, there you are. It's come up now. Okay. But the root directory of the SunPy, main SunPy repository, which contains Python scripts. And then we have a Sphinx extension that runs those Python scripts and compiles them into our main documentation in the form of a gallery.
Wait, so you're essentially saying we have to write galleries in Sphinx?
No, you write the gallery entries in normal Python script, and then when you run make HTML for the documentation, it builds the gallery as part of the documentation, as far as I can ascertain. This requires further investigation, but I believe that is the model that this is using.
So I don't understand how this is different from the docs. I mean, the docs we
I'm trying to
embed
find.
headers.
I'm trying to find an example. I'm trying to find an output example, like a version of this that's actually been used somewhere to render a gallery to see what the output's like.
Yeah.
But what do you...
Ah, here we are. I'm on my wrong computer. I can't load this here. Hang on. I'll find this link for you. So it looks nuts. Actually, this is good. I like this.
But how do you include like notes and text and stuff?
I don't know. It needs looking into. But I think the model for this is easier to maintain. There we are. New link in chat, which is from their documentation. Oh wow, it's got some actually nice CSS on it. This is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Ah. Also, it highlights the function calls in the example and gives you intersphinx links to the functions. That's amazing. That is actually amazing.
This is This is not exactly what we're talking about there, right? This is essentially a gallery more like a matplotlib type gallery, which is like a plot and the code, a plot and the code, as opposed to what we've been using so far, which is IPython, which is like, here is a bunch of different, here's like it's almost like a guide, or like here's a workflow. And so a workflow would not fit in this.
So have a look at the notebook-styled examples section. If you go back from that, back up. I'm trying to. I haven't actually looked at this yet. Hang on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this needs looking at, but I think I'm not convinced by the model of actually using the IPython notebook to run a gallery. I think it's potentially flawed. Because I think we have the problems that we have just run into. I think it's not necessarily easy to maintain. It's also very difficult to comment on and review under GitHub, because you can't go in line by line and review the edits. As you said, it's in a separate repository. I don't know. I haven't looked into this enough, but okay. No, right. See, So there is. Have you gone to this notebook styled examples link?
Yeah.
Yeah. And have you downloaded the original Python script and had a look at it?
Oh, it's like no, what is this? Some weird thing.
It's RST embedded in Python script.
Oh god, RST is terrible.
RST is not terrible. All our documentation is in RST.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible. I wish it was on Markdown. Why can
No, you don't, because it wouldn't generate something anywhere near as powerful.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I
There's
think
a
we have
reason.
we have a more basic question we need to address, really, as regards to gallery, which is not how should we host it, but what should be in it. So I bring this up because what we have right now are essentially sort of little guides, but we have a user guide in the docs. So the gallery, to my mind, should be something sufficiently different from the user guide. It has to be something else in its own right. And right now, I don't feel like it is like that. So
Yes,
I
it
think this
is.
is a more fundamental question.
It's totally different. Different. What do you mean? Like
It's not different. I mean, there's like one that's light curve tutorial. It was like a map tutorial, but we got rid of it. Okay, there's a SunPy overview, which is a bit different. But again, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like the gallery is sufficiently like it's duplication of effort right now. So it needs to be something that stands on its own.
So, hello. Scikit-learn is currently, of course it is, I should have guessed that. Scikit-learn is currently using the Sphinx Gallery extension to build its examples directory. So, hang on, let me just find you. No, wait, I'm coming back to what Andy said. Just give me a second. Because I'm using two computers and they're not linked together, it's difficult for me to generate links for you. So, they're using it. The things in the Scikit-learn gallery, and also to a lesser extent the Scikit-image gallery, are singular contained examples, right? It's not a gallery, it's examples. So have a look at this Scikit-learn gallery and pick out one of them. I'm going to go with face completion. That is a whole load of code that does one thing. So it would be, I'm trying to think of, so it would be like, it would be loading in, like plotting a composite map, from downloading data and plotting a composite map, or plotting a map cube, making a map cube and a light curve of the same flare event. Or, I'm just trying to think of examples, but self-contained examples from beginning to end that do one thing, or a sequence of things that would be like often used together.
Yeah, I think in my mind I thought of it more as the gallery. Yeah, you have some sort of like, not a user guide, but you have some sort of like workflows, like things that people would actually want to try and do that they don't exactly belong in a basic guide, but things that people ask you about a lot, like how to.
Yes, yeah, kind of like so the matplotlib gallery is really good as well, because obviously matplotlib is a little bit different because everything's a plot. Obviously, everything is a plot. So, like the matplotlib gallery, you can scan down it and see a plot that looks kind of like the one that you want, and then plot it, and then you get a whole self-contained code for making that kind of plot. It's quite easy to inject your data to get that output. So I think we can kind of pull that over for SunPy in some ways, like how to plot a AIA HMI image and an AIA image next to one another, having downloaded the data, or how to create a animation, or how to, these kind of things. More self-contained, singular examples.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Having the galleries inside the docs, I think that does sound like a good idea. I do not think it's a good idea to move away from the IPython notebook because
no.
All right,
go on. Sorry, I'm interrupting. Why? You first. Why?
For two reasons. One, the IPython notebooks get generated all the time when we give tutorials to people, and it's ridiculous not to host them and provide them in some sort of forum so that they can go and download them and run them.
Okay, counterpoint. Okay. It's also ridiculously easy to convert an IPython notebook to a Python script and back again.
Not with all of the text that you have in there.
Yep, it all comes in as comments when you export it.
Form that you need in this gallery? I do not write RST.
No, alright, so it would be in Markdown, but the basic Markdown is portable to RST, right? The header characters and that kind of stuff all work in RST. I don't know, it would need investigating, but I don't think it would be a massive effort. It's not like all of those notebooks are suddenly completely unusable.
But you still have to hold both of them because you can't translate the other way. You can't go from the gallery to a notebook.
I don't think we need to go back the other way, because providing a self-consistent Python script is just good for a user running it perspective. In fact, it's easier.
The next conference comes up, and I need my notebook. So what do?
You already have it. Right? It's your notebook.
But
you have it.
So yeah, but somebody's gone ahead and improved the gallery notebook version of it, and I'd like to have that. Now I have to like merge the two by hand. It's a pain in the ass. It's
So
ridiculous to have files separate from each other. And then the other thing is that no one in their right mind is going to provide us with these, with the docs, these galleries and the docs. But people are already writing stuff in notebooks, and it'd be really easy for us to like, just say, oh, could you give us this as a notebook, right? And they would. It would be very easy for people to provide.
Right. But that's the same argument you just made a minute ago, which was we're going to have notebooks and we're going to want to put them in the gallery. That's easy. That's run it through MB Convert. Or not even MB Convert, you just save it out of the web interface as a Python script. And I don't think porting it into this would be difficult. So now let me counterpoint with some advantages of doing it this way. Firstly, Python scripts are substantially easier to manage in version control. This is the big advantage, right? IPython notebooks are horrific to manage in version control. You can't code review them very well. It's very difficult to, it's basically impossible to merge two conflicting versions of the same file. Like, you can't do it.
You basically have to treat them as binary files.
Yeah, right, and it's difficult. And it's difficult to automatically run them, as proven by the fact that run IPython is broken. Run IPMB is broken. So it's difficult to automatically run them. But it's very, very easy to automatically run a plain Python script, obviously.
I think the issue is that you are trying to solve a problem that doesn't yet exist.
Yes, it does.
No.
Your gallery's broken.
All of
run IPYMB is broken.
Python notebooks.
Yeah, but there's no point in starting up a gallery where we're managing it by hand.
Why not?
Because that is stupid. Because that is a way that the gallery is going to get neglected. The gallery has already gotten neglected, and it's got an automatic builder running on it.
Right, but it got neglected because that automatic builder was kind of a pain, right? You have fun writing an easier one based on notebooks. Yeah, you just say, send us your notebook. Somebody has to look it over anyway because the notebook is sort of like it's almost like a paper, right? There's going to have to be a little bit of back and forth with like what content is in the notebook. Somebody's going to have to read
Something is very wrong with your audio, by the way, Steve, or is that just me?
I don't
know.
No, it's
you hear it.
It's very crackly.
No. I don't know. And we really don't. I mean, as it stands, I agree with you. Long term, we should probably solve it. But short term, this is not an issue. And
no, but short term, we can solve it by moving away from IPython. I'm not convinced that your two arguments for IPython are a good enough reason to maintain a gallery by hand, unless you are actually volunteering to do it.
Fine.
Well, my concern with this is, sorry,
I'm volunteering.
Okay.
No, don't volunteer to do it, because, alright, so the other advantage to this is that it all comes back into one repository. It's all back in main SunPy, and you download SunPy and you get all the examples, and we can link to the examples. I think it's a much more useful model like this.
Can I interrupt for just a moment?
They're part of the main documentation, which means they won't get forgotten when we do doc refactors. We can run them as tests and make sure that they actually execute inside the test script. They're version controlled properly. We're using a gallery build infrastructure that is maintained not by us. This is a big advantage. It reduces the amount of time we're spending making a gallery when we could be writing code.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I disagree because all of us are writing notebooks anyway.
But we've already done this. Conversion from a notebook into one of these Python scripts is probably exceedingly easy.
Probably. But we don't know.
Hang on, give me 10 minutes and I will do it, and we'll see how easy it actually is.
And you're going to have to do this by hand anyway because you're going to have to check to make sure that conversion worked properly.
You don't know, but yes.
Like if somebody
it's a manual conversion. We're storing Python example files in the main repository. This is an advantage, not a disadvantage.
No, but I'm saying you're going to have to check this by hand because the Markdown to RST conversion might not work very well. Maybe somebody uses some Markdown thing that is not supported by RST. You're going to have to...
Okay, so Markdown is exceedingly limited in what it can do. So it does titles, which are supported by RST.
Yeah.
Markdown table is an extension, but it's also the same as RST, so I'm not even sure that that's supported in IPython Notebook. Bold is the same, italic is the same, strike through is the same. Most of the stuff that's Markdown is also RST.
And so you're not worried that next version of IPython Notebook might add some new features, right? They might change them. And then you're going to have to figure that out as well. I mean, what you're essentially saying is you want to code up your own run IPy.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that if you have a notebook, you have to export it to a Python script before you put it in our examples directory. You have to do that like once, and then you're managing a Python script.
Yeah, but then it's divorced from the actual notebook. So if I go
so what?
Start messing around with the IPython notebook, you've just split the files. You've created more work. You haven't solved the problem. You've now created two different versions of the same thing, one of which is actually being tracked and possibly being changed by other people, one of which is like sitting on your computer, it's the IPython notebook.
Yeah, but you're looking at this from your perspective of running stuff, for writing notebooks for specific things and also using them as an example gallery. Right. I'm saying that you should just, if you're teaching, you should have an IPython notebook, and you should use that teaching version for teaching. I'm saying that we should have a coherent gallery that is version controlled and managed and diffed and built into the main SunPy repo and part of our documentation as part of SunPy. These two things, all right, sure, it would be nice if they could be the same thing, but I'm saying that we have a solution that does this perfectly, and you're cutting it down because it doesn't also fulfill your personal requirement for being able to combine your teaching material with the SunPy gallery.
It's also an issue of making it easier for other people to contribute, right?
This makes it easier for other people to contribute because you're dealing with a text file and not an IPython notebook. If you already have an IPython notebook, convert it to text file, contribute it. If you don't already have an IPython notebook and you're modifying it, this is substantially easier.
I'm not convinced. But
if you're making a change to an existing example, having it as a plain text file, which we can comment line by line on and review changes to it for a new contributor to SunPy, is substantially easier.
And there's also a lot of advantage to be able to say, like, here, download this, it's an IPython notebook.
There's also a lot of advantage to being able to say, download this, it's a Python file. In that anybody can run it. IPython isn't actually a dependency of SunPy. You don't have to have it installed to run SunPy.
Yeah, but that's besides the point. We're not saying
not really, because I'm just saying that you're saying it's easier to give people IPython notebooks, and I'm saying, no, not really. It's easier to give people Python scripts because they will be able to run it.
I mean, you're arguing against the usefulness of IPython notebooks, which I think is a failing argument.
No, don't get me wrong. I love IPython notebooks. I use them a lot for lots of different things. I'm just saying that for the extent of having a set of coherent examples of how to use SunPy, they may not be the perfect format for how we want to use them. In fact, I would argue that they're not the perfect format for how we want to use them.
And don't you think that somebody is going to solve this issue of IPython notebooks?
And maybe someone will solve it. Maybe someone will solve it in 6 months before we get around to implementing this. Maybe someone will solve it in 5 years' time, and then we can convert all our Python scripts to notebooks once and move into that happy notebook land. I'm just saying there isn't a solution to it at the moment, and I'm suggesting that we don't try and make one.
No, but you're suggesting more work on a different front.
No, I'm not. But I disagree with the amount of work you think my suggestion is. I'm suggesting that you write a few Python scripts and they become our examples. I don't see how this is a lot of work.
Okay, I'm gonna cut this discussion off because
thanks, Andy. That needs to happen when we and Steve go at this.
Clearly, there's a bit of a disagreement here. We're gonna have to think about it a little more, but we have to do something about the gallery. That's clear. I'm more concerned about the content we want to have in it personally, but than how we actually host it. But
Yes, to some extent at the moment it doesn't actually matter what file format we're using. We need some examples. It doesn't matter whether they come in the form of notebooks or Python scripts, because we can manually go either way between those two things.
Yeah.
I think you should change the name from gallery to tutorials, because they have more tutorials than galleries.
I would argue for more examples, in that there are more self-contained examples of doing different things, rather than full-bore tutorials.
True. Yeah, it's just like it's a how-to or an example. Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
See, I would argue that some of the long, like Steve, your excellent demo you gave at that Resi workshop that's in the gallery, I would argue that that might not necessarily be the best thing for a gallery, because it's quite long, and it would be better if that was split up. It would be it's a tutorial. It would be better if that was split up into separate things, like small standalone sections. Because I'm thinking of like but it's about providing something which is more useful. So I'm thinking about a user that comes up, right? So you've got a user who's been using SunPy for the last month, and they want to know how to create a light curve. Maybe they've not done it before. So they want a script that they can download and see, like a contained example of how to download light curve data, read it in, modify some of it, and plot it. Maybe plot two light curves together. And yes, some of that exists in the documentation, right? And they could go through the documentation and they could read it and they could write their own script. Or they could go to the examples, find a script, the self-contained script example, download it and edit it for their particular time window. And it would give them a bit more of a kickstart. That's kind of what the scikit-learn and scikit-image galleries do. They're self-contained examples of whole things, workflows, maybe something that takes like 2 pages in their documentation where they explain all the sections, and you can always go through and read that prose, and it's very useful prose to read. But the example is a script that will do exactly what you want, and you can look at it and you can just run it.
Yeah, well, I think I'd like to get more, solicit more opinions of it from the rest of the dev team as well about gallery content.
Well, we should be asking the users.
I was going to say, I think this is a good example, a good idea to put this out on the main SunPy list. Maybe in the form of soliciting ideas for gallery examples, right? So ask people, what sort of things would you like an example script for?
Sure.
Like plotting 2 maps next to each other. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
That kind of stuff.
I think that's a reasonable idea.
Because I think actually maybe at the root of mine and Steve's disagreement here is a slightly differing opinion on what the gallery should be used for. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Online polling.
Sorry, say that again?
Online poll it. Get an idea as to how many people would prefer one way or another.
Yeah, that involves having a selection of, I think that involves being able to.
In this case, it seems.
So being able to like have a set of. I don't know. Yeah, no, could do.
I mean, it's a simple way to gauge the.
I think so. My idea of asking for example submissions from
like
the
that.
SunPy. Oh, sorry, we're talking on top of one another. Go on.
No, well, it's just if you're asking a reasonably open question like that, I can imagine you'll get a lot of coming back, and it might be, if nothing else, all you want an idea of is it worth even considering one of those options over another, and that's more of a numbers game, I think.
Yeah, but I mean the problem is also that you won't get informed answers because people. I don't think people will understand. I mean, we're having a hard time describing exactly what we want to each other, and what people will do is default to what they know best, right? And that is, if they know IPython notebooks, they'll be like, oh, I want to know Python notebooks. If they want, they're really familiar with the Matplotlib gallery, they'll just say, oh, I want something like the Matplotlib gallery. So,
yeah, true. I guess that.
I don't know. But but I think fundamentally, Stuart, I think what we should do right now is before we start figuring out exactly what we need, I think we can maintain the gallery as it is with IPython notebooks. We were going to add the AIA prep comparison notebook by Drew, the workshop notebooks that I put together. Adding those by hand is like not a big deal. They already exist. Might as well make them available in a place where people can find them. And then I think we should put together like a gallery, like you were suggesting, like what you showed here. I think that's a really great idea.
So I think actually I've found a way to solidify this dichotomy a bit. So the difference between AstroPy tutorials and the scikit-learn gallery. Put those two up side by side. The scikit-learn gallery and scikit-learn examples and the AstroPy tutorials. The AstroPy tutorials are long, like which one was it that I was just viewing and manipulating fits files. It's long, it's got lots of description, it does multiple things, it does image stacking, plotting a histogram, writing back out again, and it has exercises at the end.
Right.
Whereas the scikit-learn examples are one relatively short script which does a thing.
Yeah.
I would potentially argue there's a place for both.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like, so we could, and I think the tutorials work better out of a notebook because it's easier to download for the people to download and run it in place, which is why Notebook works so well for teaching in that kind of style.
Right.
But the examples are better for, like, sort of having a script is better for examples because most of the time people are doing that kind of work in a reproducible context where they're running scripts to do different things.
Yeah. So I guess there's three levels, right? There's the gallery, which is like, here's how you plot this thing, right? That matplotlib, very small, right? Then we have workflow, which is like the scikit thing, like this is a workflow for this particular issue, and then you have tutorials, which are the long things.
Yeah, I think so I think like the first two, you could combine those into one thing, right? You could have you could have very short things and slightly longer things in an example gallery if you wanted to. But yes, I agree. I agree with your categorization. I just think we could. So some of your first point for us specifically, I think some of the first like very short things are in the docs, but should probably be in the docs and the example gallery, because then it depends where someone goes to look for something, right? So something might be easier to find in the example gallery than the documentation, and then tutorials for long stuff. So on the topic of tutorials, if we wanted to create a collection of tutorials, Drew, Sam, Nabil, and I did that workshop, and there's our notebooks for the tutorials for that. Some of those are not SunPy, though. Quite a lot of them aren't SunPy, but I feel as though they should probably be advertised somewhere, SunPy site.
Yeah, why don't we just like put some place and gather all the notebooks that people have used and put together?
We could have a Git repo which has submodules for other people's Git repos.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have we had a Git repo with all of our workshop notebooks in, so you could just submodule that repo into a SunPy one.
Well, I mean, I really think this tutorial thing needs to be moderated a lot.
Yeah, well, it would be moderate, but I don't. Well, it depends what you want to get out of it, I suppose. If you just want a collection of SunPy tutorials, then that works. If you want something more like the current gallery, then it needs to be sort of like included in.
Okay, I have another meeting at 1:30, so I'm going to have to go very soon.
Yeah, and I want to go home for my dinner.
I need a cup of tea, so.
And I don't have the energy for my next fight, which is going to be No to SunPy tables.
let's postpone that discussion.
We'll save that one. But we'll save that one.
That's yeah. Let's get downloader done first.
Yeah. Also, that is not a high priority discussion. I put it out there because it's something I created an issue for it because it's something that we've been talking about a bit before, and Jack and I were having started to have a conversation about it in another issue, and I wanted to segregate it properly. But it's not something that we need to worry about too much at the moment. For a start, the functionality that we want doesn't exist in SunPy table at the moment, so it's actually a completely irrelevant discussion from that point because we couldn't do it tomorrow even if we wanted to. But as I have made clear in that issue, I have reasons why I think it's a good plan. So perhaps it's something that we could just do over text. Because it's not urgent. So I see you later.
See you.
See you.
Everyone.